And after that beautiful act of kindness, I ask you to take a moment and get a little grounded. I invite you to relax into your chair, have your feet fully grounded. I'm going to read just part of the first chapter of the Tao Te Ching as a meditation, but I invite us first to take just a couple of deep cleansing breaths. I invite you to breathe in and breathe out, letting the air out flow just a little bit longer than the air in. A second one, breathe in and breathe out, and breathe in and breathe out. The Tao that can be described is not the eternal Tao. The name that can be spoken is not the eternal name. The nameless is the boundary of heaven and earth. The named is the mother of creation. And now I invite you back with me where the fun begins. In May 1977, my older brother begged my parents to take us to see a science fiction movie. I don't think I understood at the time why my brother was so excited to see it, but his excitement was contagious. The movie, of course, was the first Star Wars. And I can still remember the feeling I had watching it. I was in awe of this other universe and the people that populated this world. I felt full of wonder at the possibilities. There were people like us and yet unlike us. They had lived a long, long time ago in a galaxy far, far away. The movie depicted an epic battle of good versus evil and introduced us to the Force. The Force is a central concept in Star Wars universe, described as an energy field that connects all living things. It's a metaphysical and mystical power that gives certain individuals, known as Force-sensitive beings, bet you didn't know that definition, access to extraordinary abilities. The abilities included telekinesis, precognition, enhanced physical capabilities, and the ability to influence the thoughts and actions of others. In the Star Wars narrative, the Force is portrayed as having both a light and a dark side. Those who'd followed the light, such as the Jedi Order, sought to uphold peace and justice in the galaxy. Conversely, those who embraced the dark side, called the Sith, pursued power and domination at all costs. The Force is often depicted as a guiding and unifying presence in the Star Wars saga, shaping the destinies of characters and influencing the events of the galaxy. It's a source of spiritual guidance and power for many characters as well. It serves as a metaphor of the universal struggle between good and evil and the interconnectedness of all life. The character that wields the Force most may face a constant struggle not to be lured by the dark side, to resist the temptation to be seduced by the power of anger and hate. There is even a redemptive aspect of the Force that allowed Darth Vader, the incarnation of evil and powerful wielder of the Force, to use the power of love for his son to overthrow his master and become one with the Force and the side of good and light. This idea of the Force has really become a way for many people to first delve into the ideas of the mysteries of the world. The Jedi Master Obi-Wan Kenobi states that the Force is what gives Jedi his power. It's an energy field created by all living things. It surrounds us. It penetrates us. It binds the galaxy together. One of my favorite characters, Master Yoda, a small green being who is full of wonderful wisdom and that seems very Buddhist, speaks of the Force in connection with the struggle for freedom. For my ally is the Force, and a powerful ally it is. Life creates it, makes it grow. Its energy surrounds us and binds us. Luminous beings we are, not this crude matter. There's also, of course, a princess, a smuggler, the droids, basically robots, who, in my opinion, stole the show. But I mean, wow, right? I mean, what a pantheon of characters. And even now, almost, say it, 50 years later, there are still movies and television shows that are set in the same universe. When I watched them as a kid, that kid inside of me experiences that same feeling I had when I watched that first movie. Now, the universe was created by George Lucas, who is a self-professed Methodist Buddhist, believe it or not. Lucas stated that the Force was based on multiple religions, particularly Buddhism, Taoism, and Christianity. There's actually an article in Church Mag magazine that Lucas is quoted as saying, "The Force evolved out of various developments of character and plot." Okay. He said, "I wanted a concept of religion based on the premises that there is a God and that there is good and evil." He said, "I began to distill the essence of all religions into what I thought was a basic idea common to all religions and combative to basic thinking. I wanted to develop something that was non-denominational but still had a kind of religious reality." When he was interviewed by CNN on the meaning of the Force, he stated, "I see Star Wars as taking all these issues that religion represents and trying to distill them down into a more modern and accessible construct. I wanted to make it so that young people would begin to ask questions about the mystery." And of course, while there have been articles, papers, books written on theology of the Force, wow, when I started researching this, I could not believe how many. There are PhD papers written on the theology of the Force. But what I found most frequently asked is less about what religion the Force represents, and more so about how Star Wars and the Force have enabled so many people who would otherwise deny having any kind of spirituality, let alone belong to an organized religion, be able to embrace something larger than themselves, something that even touches that great mystery of life and the divine. In my work as a chaplain, I do occasionally find myself in a room with a patient that just wants to discuss theology. Recently, I was with a person that stated that he was agnostic. He didn't believe in an all-powerful supreme being, but he said he was open to the idea of spirit. He asked me what my theology was. Of course, I am trained to provide an elevator speech of my theology to anybody that wants to listen. But this time, I stilled myself. I spoke from my spirit. And I said, I believe in the interconnectedness of us all, that we are born from energy, we return to energy, that the Spirit, the divine presence resides both within us and outside of us, and that the power for goodness is in us all, should we choose to live into it. The patient's eyes lit up. He sat up and stated quite loudly, "Oh, you mean like the Force in Star Wars?" Of course, I replied, "Yes, exactly like that." He mulled over this idea and he said, okay, I suppose my spirituality is a Jedi. I can claim that, right? Well, I thought this actually was an excellent question. A good distinction as well. The Force being the divine influence and the Jedi, the wielder of the Force for good, or the difference between spirit and being spiritual. Now, let me be honest. It's not the first time I claimed the Force as being my theology. I even wrote this connection in my theological summary for my ordination. And the reviewing minister simply wrote, "May the Force be with you," in the margin of the document. It was my belief in the idea of interconnectedness that drew me to Unitarian Universalism as well. And after my wife introduced me to Buddhism, I found a wonderful connection of mindfulness, meditation, a desire to help others stop suffering in our world. Yoda again offers some insight to the dark side of the Force, saying, "Fear is the path to the dark side. Fear leads to anger. Anger leads to hate. Hate leads to suffering." Again, Yoda is a Buddhist. And it's the cessation of suffering that is the core to Buddhism. And for those of you that are not familiar with Taoism, this is both a religion, a mystical philosophy that originated in China in the 6th century. Taoists believe that they strive to live within and as a part of the natural world and within the flow of the universe, referred to as the Tao or the Way. It was a Taoist sage and philosopher, Lao Tzu, that wrote this text called Tao Te Ching, part of what I read just a moment ago for the meditation. It explains that the way was and what it was and how we live in it. The first chapter of the Tao Te Ching defines the way really in amazingly simple terms, one you might actually be able to relate to. So this is the whole first chapter. The Tao that can be described is not the eternal Tao. The name that can be spoken is not the eternal name. The nameless is the boundary of heaven and earth. The named is the mother of creation. Freed from desire, you can see the hidden mystery. By having desire, you can only see what is visibly real. Yet mystery and reality emerge from the same source. The source is called darkness. Darkness, born from darkness, the beginning of all understanding. Now, just as the Tao is symbolized by notions of darkness and light, so is the Force. The Force embodies, again, that interconnectedness of all living beings, the energy that flows through the universe, the power and choice in determining our paths, power of light coming from darkness. And while Christianity, well, there's not necessarily a direct equivalent to the Force, but I do believe we can find some interesting parallels. God's presence can be described as an all-encompassing force that permeates the universe. Well, not exactly like the Force. This is omnipresence, is similar in a sense that it's always there, guiding and influencing events. The Force can be seen as a representation of guidance and providence.
Yeah.
Jedi's often speak to listening to the Force. Close your eyes and listen to the Force, as being guided by its wisdom, much like connecting to the Holy Spirit and seeking guidance and power and wisdom through discernment. And throughout the Star Wars saga, there is the continued struggle between good and evil. In our journeys through life, we may encounter moments of darkness, moments of light. We face trials and tribulations. We celebrate victories and joys. Just as the characters in Star Wars grapple with the forces of good and evil, so too do we navigate the complexities of our own moral and ethical landscapes. Yet, like the Jedi, we are called to harness the power of force for good, to cultivate compassion, empathy, understanding in our actions with others. We're reminded we're not alone in this universe, but rather we're all connected in this web of relationships that transcends time and space. This interconnected web of existence that we are all a part. We also each have our own ways of finding our paths, our own spiritual journeys, of understanding what we see as the divine, the great mystery, and how this knowledge impacts us and those around us. What might be universal is a desire for our spiritual paths to lead us to be a force for good in our lives, in our world. Our universe might not contain the force in the way that George Lucas directly described it, but I feel we can all learn something from this concept and maybe even apply it to our understanding and tolerance for the universal spirit that resides in us all. And so, in the words of Jedi Master Obi-Wan Kenobi, the Force will be with you always. May we carry this wisdom with us as we continue on our spiritual journey, trusting the Force will guide us, inspire us, unite us in all our shared humanity. And may we, like the Jedi, strive to become beacons and hope and agents of change in the world that is often clouded by darkness. Amen. Blessed be, and may the Force be with you.